Hi, I'm the Warrior Witch, and you can call me Nike. Today, we're talking about ethics in magic. Now, this might seem like it's kind of a simple issue, but there's a lot of parts to it despite how simple it seems on the surface. Of course, just like with any subject, everybody's gonna have a different opinion on it. Some people are going to fall in one camp versus another. Some people are gonna be kind of in the middle or sort of outside where you take from a couple of the different areas. So, first and foremost, the ethics are kind of up to you to decide, but the best way to decide on where you stand on those ethics is to learn all of the sides of the argument. So I'm going to talk about all the parts of ethics in magic as it's discussed, as I am aware of them and as I can think of them in this video. So number one, the biggest part of ethics in magic is consent, generally. A lot of what the ethics boil down to is legitimately just you need to have consent to do magic, to not have to worry so much about ethics and backfiring and all that. The big thing about consent is, if you want to do spell work for or on someone, you need to have their go-ahead. This is a big part of why baneful magic is seen as so dangerous, is because you are actively choosing to never get their consent for any part of it, and you want the opposite of what they would ever want to happen to them. They're not consenting for something bad to happen, so the chances of it backfiring or the chances of it just not working at all are really high. And that's where consent is important. When you want to do something for someone, let's say your friend is sick and you want to do a health spell, or they're single and lonely and they want a partner, so you want to do a love draw spell for them. If they are not aware of you doing those spells, it can backfire not just on you, but on them too. So let's go with the looking for love example. If they don't know that you've done the spell for them, they may walk into a situation where they were not prepared for it, they were not in that moment looking for it, and it could lead to either a dangerous situation, they could get hurt in some form, either emotionally or, God forbid, physically. If they are not open and prepared for that consequence of your spell work, it can hurt them in some form or fashion. That leads into another category that comes with the ethics that you'll hear a lot of people talk about, which is love spells. So, love spells, in this case, I mean spells to make someone love you, versus drawing love to you in general, seeking out a partner, self-love. Those are different. Trying to get a person to love you is taking away their consent. You're taking away their choice to get to know you on their own, to love you on their own. And it can definitely backfire really easily, especially if you couple it with things like binding someone to you without their consent. That person that you wanted so bad now becomes a crazy stalker. It can also damage their relationships. If they're already in one or already seeing somebody, not only are you possibly hurting yourself and that person, you could also be hurting that person that they're seeing in some form or fashion. You could be breaking up a family in some really extreme cases. Ethics in magic become really, really important, not just for the people that you love generally being in your life, but most especially if they live with you. If you live with someone and you want to do magic on them without their consent, you already need to stop. Full stop. Do not do it. I don't care what the spell is, good, bad, whatever. I don't care. Don't do magic on someone who lives with you if they're not giving you their consent, especially if it's baneful magic. You are looking for that to hurt you directly. Not only do you already have the risk of it backfiring, they're in your life. The things that they have happened to them because they live with you now affect you too. Let's say you're really mad at your dad because he was really mean to you and did some legitimately awful thing, so you think, I'm gonna hex him. Well, congratulations, your hex made him lose his job. Now your family doesn't have as much money, and you are in financial struggles because you decided to hex him. You'd think this would be a really easy concept for people to understand, not to hex the people that you live with, but I have seen it so many times. I'm mad at my dad, I'm mad at my brother, my mom's so mean, I'm gonna hex them. Don't. That is the stupidest thing you could do. I can't understand that mindset. I get being a teenager, I get being young, I get being hurt, even as an adult. I get sometimes situations are hard, and especially with family or roommates or whoever. But don't do spell work on the people you live with. Ethics, when it comes down to it, is really a safety issue, and it runs back into those safety issues I talked about with like spell work or your basics with cleansing and protection. You need to consider not just the human beings around you, but spirits as well. The ethics of using spirits for your own gain in a selfish way, you really need to understand that limit of what is something that legitimately would improve your life and what is you wanting and asking for more than you have worked for, more than you have tried to get on your own. It's just like the conversation with deities. You can't take and take and take and take and expect to give nothing back. So when you're working with a spirit, an entity, whatever, there's also ethics in that, just like working with a human being. To go along with this conversation on ethics, you will probably also hear a lot of terms thrown around, the main three being white witchcraft, black witchcraft, and gray witchcraft. Now, if you've seen my witch types video, you already know my stance on this, that I don't really like the titles of anything, crystal witch, white witch, whatever. But not only that, it tends to be a bit toxic with those, more one than the others. White witchcraft I have kind of a problem with. Not only does white and black witchcraft have sort of an ethical connotation here in the United States, yes, I know white and black in Europe, when it comes to magic, has a different connotation. It's more associated with beneficial and malefic magics, but in America specifically, the stereotype that comes with black magic is related to black people and with slavery and with hoodoo and voodoo. So I have problems with that term on its own, but I also have problems with just the concept of good versus bad, white versus black. It leads into an issue of toxic positivity where the only part of witchcraft that you can possibly ever do is good, white, light, love and light type of witchcraft, and that's not all there is. I'm gonna say it all the time, magic is a hammer, it's a tool. You can build a house or you can hit somebody over the head with it, and it's about how you use it, and if you're careful about it. Sometimes the only way to defend yourself is to attack someone. I mean, self-defense is a thing, and sometimes self-defense does require a little bit of aggression and violence. Now, that's not saying that it should be your first go-to, it should be your last resort, but it is still a viable tactic sometimes. Now, for those who don't know, gray witchcraft is someone who incorporates both, but to me that's just being a witch, so I don't really feel that that term is even necessary anyway. But when it comes to white witchcraft, I've also found that there is this idea that you are better than somebody because, well, I don't do baneful magic, I don't do curses, they do, that's bad. Love and light only doesn't leave any room for the reality of harmful things that happen in the world, of negative emotions that come up, of negative situations that may make you feel a certain way, things that make you upset and angry and to want to go towards those darker things. It refuses to acknowledge that those emotions are valid, that you're allowed to feel that way. It doesn't always have to be love and light only, peace. Different traditions will also have different ethics. So Appalachian folk magic, or voodoo and hoodoo, or traditional Irish witchcraft, or anything else throughout the world, all of those are going to have their own ethical traditions. So really, if you are raised in a certain culture, you need to look at those as well. The general point is you need to learn to decide these things for yourself, and a little of it is learning about those things. Just like with poisons and curing people, you need to understand the poison to understand how to cure someone of it. Now, this is not me saying, go run off and do a curse right now to understand them. No, but you need to understand how those things work in order to protect yourself from them, to heal yourself from them, should on the very rare off chance it ever happens to you. You need to understand it as a concept. Now, if someone you know is truly suffering and you feel that magic is the only way to help them, there are small ways that you can get their consent without it necessarily having to be, can I do a spell for you? You can say, can I pray for you? You can say, I made this little good luck charm for you. You could carry it on you if you want, and you offer it to them. You give them a gift that says, I was thinking of you, take it with you and look at it whenever you need a helping hand. It could be a little doll that you just enchant to make somebody feel better, and you say, hey, I got this, maybe you could hold it when you're feeling upset. There are ways to get consent without directly stating, I'm a witch and I do spells. If you're not sure whether or not they've accepted your offer to make them something, to do something for them, if you're able to be direct and they're sort of wishy-washy, if it's a maybe and you're not sure that they have said yes, just don't do it. It's just generally safer not to do any of that, honestly. And magic doesn't have to be your first go-to anyway. I mean, go to the mundane before the magical, always, if you can. Sometimes your friend just needs a hug. Honestly, I have less to say about this topic than I thought I did, so, I'll see you guys later, and blessed be. Bye! Also, don't mind my beautiful tan lines. I got a little crispy because I'm very pale.